Good morning. I'm Rowena Crosby.
And I'm Deborah Renner, and we're your co-hosts for this show. Thank you for joining us for the next 17 minutes for Your Invisible Toolbox, the show based on the book Your Invisible Toolbox, which is available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. And each week we look at a tool for working effectively with others.
We welcome you today to our live broadcast from the Tero International Studio. Did you realize that people size you up in 2 seconds? And they do this mostly subconsciously by answering 2 questions. And the answers to those questions will often determine whether or not we have the opportunity to do business with someone.
They do. In their mind, they're asking themselves, is this person going to be a friend or a foe? And then they're asking, is this person competent in helping me achieve whatever I need to do, or incompetent? And that's what determines whether or not they pursue that business relationship with us.
So while relationships are important and we want to be perceived as friendly, more is required. We have to figure out how do we demonstrate our competence. And that's the focus of our show today.
So today we're going to take a look at how do we create the business relationships that are secure. Secure in that people want to work with us because it's really enjoyable to do so, and secure in the fact that they view us as competent and that we will fulfill and deliver on our promises.
Do any of you have meetings this week? If you do, you'll want to stay with us for the Development Challenge, where we're going to take a look at our invisible tool in that context.
And we're so excited for our interview. Our interview is with a businesswoman who is an expert in developing relationships that convey warmth and competence. Carol Chambers will be joining us later in the program. This is an interview you do not want to miss.
So let's get started. Many of us boast large social media networks, but we often find that we don't have real people to hang out with in real time. And this personal situation actually has implications in our business.
Yeah, it doesn't translate well in business, because in business we do need to be able to create those relationships. Sometimes we have to repair damaged relationships. We have to introduce ourselves to new clients or customers or people that work in our organization and do that effectively.
We do, and it isn't easy. We definitely need to make sure we maintain those relationships, and they matter a lot. I know we can all think of situations where a relationship has allowed us to continue doing business when it may not make sense because of geography or convenience. I know I have done something, and I'm sure many of our female viewers can relate to this. I followed a hairstylist through 6 salons, and when he moved 3 hours away, I actually thought about following then, and then realized that that just didn't make sense.
It didn't work. I have an accountant who is from my hometown. Now that is 3 hours away, but I don't see him as often as I would see a hairdresser, but still stayed with that because of that relationship.
And many of you can probably think of those type of relationships that you followed. We often hear about the hometown banker. And when you move cities, you still keep that relationship, even though you drive past dozens and dozens of banks. We hear that about pediatricians, tailors, veterinarians, all kinds of professions, that the relationship just matters and sticks.
Yeah, and Aristotle had this figured out a long time ago.
Over 2,000 years ago, and he called it ethos. And that is the acknowledgement that we do business with people we like, trust, and have confidence in.
Well, and that's why we do the political polls to see the likability of the candidate. We do customer surveys to see what their experience felt like when they did business with us. Doctors, we know that doctors who are seen as likable are less likely to be sued and actually promote the positive health of their patients.
So there's a lot of benefits to good relationships, but more is required. We also have to demonstrate competence. And how do we do that? That's our Invisible Tool of the Week.
And our Invisible Tool of the Week is found in Chapter 16, and it is to demonstrate our competence.
Business referrals, work promotions often come from people who see us as both likable and competent. And that's often the result of all this word of mouth that we credit our business relationships growing from. So this tool demonstrating competence is really worth investing some time and resources in.
It is, and it's not as easy for some as others. We do know that men are generally culturally conditioned to speak about their achievements and that it's okay for them to do that. And women tend to be generally culturally conditioned to nurture relationships. And what this means is when women do self-promotion, it can sometimes be taken wrong or maybe threaten someone else's success.
Yeah, in fact, when women do self-promote, they often get mislabeled. An interesting op-ed in the New York Times by Sheryl Sandberg and Adam Grant shared some rather startling statistics on this thing that you're talking about. They found that when male executives speak up, they receive 10% higher competence ratings. But when their female counterparts speak up, they're rated by their peers 14% lower. That's a 24% swing. Similarly, when male employees offer ideas, that is reflected positively on their performance evaluations, and they found that when females offered the same ideas, there was no difference in how they were perceived.
So we see that cultural conditioning does have its effect in terms of how we interpret those conversations.
Yes.
But male or female, we need to be able to demonstrate our competence. So to use the invisible tool of the week, here are some tips. Number one, don't hide behind humility. Humility is a virtue, but it's also virtuous to be able to contribute to whatever it is you're involved in. And so being able to let people know what you bring to the table. Margaret Wahlberg in Raw Courage TV she has a saying for us. She said, it's not enough anymore to say, it's not what you know, but who you know. She says, now we should be saying, it is who knows what you know that matters. And how do we get that across to people in terms of what it is we know, and be strategic about making sure people understand that. And the third one, lift others up. Promoting others, it actually demonstrates our own competence and our own confidence, and that is something that we all have the opportunity to do.
We do. And so where are we going to demonstrate our competence? Well, one opportunity is in meetings.
And we're probably all going to be in a meeting this week, at least one of them.
Yes.
And we have different participants in meetings. We have the leader and we have the participant. Let's take a look as our development challenge of the week and how we can use that tool of demonstrating competence in meetings.
So let's start with the meeting leader. Their opportunity to demonstrate competence starts way in advance of the meeting. So in the preparation, are the communications clear? Are the people that are invited to the meeting the most appropriate ones? Does everybody know what the expectations are? Is there even an agenda? All of that speaks to the leader's competence. And then in the meeting, are we starting on time? Is the meeting leader able to engage everyone, to manage the dynamics, make sure voices are heard, and then finish the meeting on time?
Finishing on time. And what about the participant? Also need to show up prepared, ready to go, but we have to look as if we're contributing, even if we're not actively involved in the conversation. A lot of times people don't realize their nonverbals are giving off messages. You might just be thinking, and your facial expression might be very thoughtful, but it could be sending a signal you're disagreeing with something being said. Or your posture, if it's lax, might indicate that you're really not there, you're not engaged.
That's so true. So meeting leaders and participants alike need to realize that just because you're not talking doesn't mean you aren't communicating. We are communicating always when we're in the presence of others. And we invite you to think about your use of these things, of your devices in meetings, and engaging with those can actually have a detrimental effect on how we're perceived in terms of competence.
Definitely can. And following up, whatever it is that your role was in terms of what to follow up with regards to the meeting, is important to follow through on. And also, if you're the participant, thanking the organizer of the meeting, thanking the chair of the meeting, that shows you are seeing yourself as part of a larger organization, not just an individual contributor.
So we invite you for your development challenge to do a self-audit. How are you coming across in meetings, and are there some steps you can take to be perceived as both more likable and more competent? Well, those of you who follow Tero on social media already know we post useful links several times every day to interpersonal skills topics. We're going to feature 2 of those today.
And our first post comes from Inc. magazine, and it's How to Build Better Business Relationships by Daryl Dahl. This is an interesting article because he cites different scenarios of things people have done where they haven't paid attention to people when they're not actively engaged in business. And that takes a toll on the business relationship as well as how they perceive our competence. This is going to be on all Tero social media platforms today.
And our second featured post is to a TED Talk. And if you happen to feel that you're doing everything you can do, you're taking an advice and really applying the advice of others, and your career isn't doing what you believe it should be doing, you may be missing something. So this TED Talk takes a surprising look and invites us to think about what contributions we're making to the company's bottom line and to the financials. You'll find a link to that on all Tero social media on Thursday. Well, we are delighted to move into the portion of the program we call This Week's Interview. And we're welcoming to our table Carol Chambers. Carol is the president and CEO of the West Des Moines Chamber of Commerce. We got to know Carol when she was with the Business Record, and she was the director of strategic partnerships, and we are so pleased you joined us today. Welcome, Carol.
Thank you, Carol.
Thank you.
Before we get started, will you tell our viewers a little bit more about yourself?
I'd be happy to. Thank you, Deb. I joined the West Des Moines Chamber of Commerce this past year at the end of March. And I'll say I had a great ride at the Business Record. I had so much fun in that position. And working with Tero was one of those pleasures. But after 15 years, it was time for a change. Mm-hmm. And I've always had a passion for the chamber work, volunteered for many years as their chair, helping them start the West Des Moines Leadership Academy. So this was like a dream come true.
Oh, that's good.
Well, for all of us as members too.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, today we're talking about demonstrating competence, and you've held so many executive positions, both in work and also in philanthropic and community organizations. What is competence to you? How do you, when you are looking at someone or meeting someone, what communicates competence?
I will admit, I do judge people by their competency and their competence. So I listen for especially how they present their ideas, both in terms of content and how they deliver that. Mm. So really and truly, being a wordsmith myself, I value the best possible use of every single word. And when the content is compelling and delivered in a compelling way, it really gets my attention. On the other hand, if it is not compelling, then I'm turned in a different direction.
Right, that makes sense. We've talked about how hard it is for women to self-promote in business, and as successful as you have been, what have you learned along the way that was helpful in that?
Well, it takes me back to Sheryl Sandberg and the book Lean In, and really being at the table. Don't be dismissed for any reason. Share your ideas. Prepare in advance. Mm-hmm. Know your subject matter. Participate in meetings. Be respectful of others as you collaborate. I think those are very key to demonstrating competency. And you know, the other thing is, have self-assurance. That creates a presence of confidence, and you can't trade that for anything.
Oh, good advice. Now, you were responsible for expertly hosting and being MC for so many events at the Business Record and now at the West Des Moines Chamber. And this looks so effortless when you do it, but obviously it is not. So what is the role of preparation and planning when it comes to being seen as competent?
Thank you for those very kind comments, Deb.
Well, they're true.
And I will say, it does take a lot of work. The night before any event at the Business Record, my husband would see me typing away, making my notes, creating a script that I would not read, but I would have as a reference if I needed it. And practice, 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 practice. When I hear myself saying the words I want to say, I'm so much more comfortable the next day when I'm saying it. You know, that's where, you know, you say, I'm comfortable in my own skin. Well, that takes practice and preparation.
Oh, and can I make an observation here? I've seen you at that podium for so many of these events, and it's interesting that all of that practice has always led to what appears to be completely natural delivery.
Well, I think when you know your subject matter well enough that you can be conversational, that's the goal.
That's the goal.
That's the goal. You know, your network is so wide and big, and yet you make everyone feel so welcome and so known. So we want the secret. What's the formula? Because you do, and you give that off to so many people.
Again, you're being very kind, Deb. I don't know that there's a formula per se. Certainly paying it forward, doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do, treating others as you want to be treated falls all into that, into developing a network. But also elevating others, pointing out others' strengths and giving them time to shine is very key. and being accountable. Do what you say you're going to do, deliver, and you make a mistake, admit the mistake. If you have to talk to a client, a vendor, a colleague because you made a mistake, do it face to face. You'll earn respect immediately.
Yeah, good advice. Passion and being passionate is how sometimes people will perceive our competence. What are you most passionate about?
In recent years, I've felt my passion turn toward women, young women, even middle-aged women who are seeking advice or needing just a mentor for a moment or a mentor for a lifetime. And it doesn't matter if there's something that I can share, or if I can connect them with someone who has expertise they need. That's where my passion lies.
Oh, that's so fortunate for those women. What final note about competence and friendliness in business relationships can you share? And then how does the Chamber help people build those relationships and maybe get their word of competence out?
Thank you for that opportunity, Deb. Competence comes along life's journey. We learn as we go, and that's created one success at a time. So reflect on successes. Friendliness is as simple as a smile, a warm handshake, including someone in a conversation if they're standing outside the circle where the conversation is taking place, introducing others at networking events. That demonstrates friendliness and caring. As far as the Chamber is concerned, we have a plethora of opportunities where people can build their network, where they can participate in learning opportunities, where they can have a platform to share their expertise. So we look forward to continue working with Tero and with others as we present our program of work in 2018.
Oh, thank you so much for being with us today.
And what a pleasure.
Thank you for being our guest.
Thank you.
And thanks to all of you for joining us. If you missed any portion of the program or want to share it with others, you'll find the entire program loaded up to Tero's YouTube channel. Join us again next Monday morning at 9:03 Central, where we will explore another tool in your Invisible Toolbox.
And now it's your turn. We welcome your suggestions for future shows. Whatever team interactions you're having or leadership situations, email your ideas to ideas@yourinvisibletooolbox.com, and we will incorporate those. And find us on your favorite social media platform. We're also on Instagram. And if you haven't subscribed to Tero's YouTube channel, click the link below and be subscribed. You'll be alerted as to when future shows will air. Carol, thank you for all your wisdom and being with us today.
Oh, thank you.
And thank you to Kyle Plummer, our cameraman and director, and Rachel Trainham, who is also assisting with today's production.
And thanks to all of you for joining us, and that's a wrap.